This is Leaders Who Scale, and I'm Jeff Siegel. I've worked with thousands of companies over the years, and I'm fascinated by seeing how many of them grow and scale. Join me as we learn from the leaders of growing companies and share that knowledge. Leaders Who Scale is sponsored by Siegel Solutions, providing world-class accounting, advisory, and QuickBooks and Acumatica Cloud ERP services. Today's guest has extensive sales and operations experience. She's grown a company that she started in 2021 with 3 employees, 1 location, to 8 employees and 2 locations. And in the course of a little over a year, she's got a little over a 7-figure top-line revenue. She's known as the Turf Girl. She's the co-founder and senior vice president of Turf Envy. Turf Envy, so everyone knows, is located in Las Vegas and has a national presence. I want to welcome Celeste Interrante. Welcome, Celeste.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, it's early for you. I'm on the East Coast. You're out in Vegas, so it's a little early for you. But thank you for coming on, and appreciate your giving us your time. And I'd love to hear about your journey.
Well, thanks for having me.
So with this big growth you've had with revenue and employees and locations, what is the most challenging aspect or aspects of growing and scaling Turf Envy?
Yeah, there's actually a couple of them. The first is going to be staffing employees. It's really become a problem post-pandemic or coming out of the pandemic to really find quality employees that stick around, that haven't gone off and done their own thing, that are able to have the skill sets that are necessary or be trainable in order to, do the work that I need them to do. So employees are definitely a challenge for us.
Yeah. Was it difficult? I'm just curious. You started in the middle of the pandemic, right? In 2021?
Correct.
I mean, that must have been difficult because everybody was quarantined or were, at home. So that must have been a challenge even from day one, I assume.
Actually, it was kind of easy to start off because it was me and my partner and one of his loyal kind of peers that he had, and then my sons. So I just threw the boys into it and said, hey, you're going to help us build this. But then it got to be where we needed a different skill set. It got to be busier. We needed more help. So then we had to let them do what they wanted to do in life and try to find replacements.
So, okay. So staffing is a big one. Is there any other challenges that you're going through?
Cash flow.
Okay.
Cash flow is definitely a challenge, especially for any new startup, I would think. We have been very, very blessed and fortunate to have a good first year. But with a product-based company, all of your extra money is put into product. And the importing and manufacturing of artificial turf takes a while. And so all your cash flow is tied up for anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks, depending on how long it takes to get here. So it's definitely managing that cash flow is a challenge.
Yeah. So tell us real quickly about maybe Turf Envy in general. Obviously it's artificial turf, or is that actually, that's an oxymoron, right? So artificial turf. So artificial grass, I would say. But yeah, just tell me, because you mentioned manufacturing. So you're not just, it doesn't sound like you're just kind of like buying it and selling it. You're actually involved in some kind of the manufacturing process, or you outsource that. I'm just curious, maybe a little bit about Turf Envy. Yeah.
Sure. So it is plastic grass in the desert, artificial turf. And I am involved with our manufacturers overseas and on this continent in the design and manufacture of the artificial turf. It's made similar to carpet. So it's made on a big roller and it's tufted in. And then the shipping and import. So we're an importer as well. And I work with them on the specifications and the turf types and colors and all the different pieces that go into making artificial turf. And then ordering it and getting it over here and selling it out the back end. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed on your website there was, I can't remember how many, 11, 12 different, I don't know, types, I guess. Are they different types for different applications, whether it's residential or commercial or, or just the look and feel? It's interesting. Did you come up with those types, or is that kind of generic across the industry?
Um, the different types, you're absolutely correct. They're for residential, commercial, but also residential, ornamental, like for a front yard, or high traffic for a backyard,
Mm-hmm.
for a dog run. So there's different types of artificial grass for different applications. Commercial is a kind of a different commodity that they use. Um, and so the turf is made uh, to really give the homeowners here what they're looking for. We have an influx of new homeowners from all over the country,
Mm-hmm.
and they're used to their yards looking a certain way and not necessarily that desert landscape that we are so known for out here. So I took the different types of grasses from the Midwest and California, and just tried to replicate that so that there was a choice in what our customers could purchase.
How did you actually get into turf? I mean, were you a landscaper, or like I'm just curious what brought you down this path, this place?
Um, I think the universe just brought the opportunity to me back in 2019. I definitely was not excited about going to work for a turf company previously,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it kept coming up in front of my face, and so I took a leap and joined that company, learned a lot, and decided that I really wanted to try to do something on my own a little differently.
And who are you? I'm just curious who your purchaser are. Is it B2B, B2C? Like if you had to break down your customer base, who would that be?
Sure. So we probably sell 1% to 2% to retail, because
Mm-hmm.
most homeowners will hire a landscaper to install the artificial turf, mostly because of education. Just the DIYers don't know the process. 96% of our business is directly to landscapers or developers
Okay.
to install it. And then about 3% is to other distributors, so wholesalers.
Do you have a division that actually does installation as well? Or are you primarily just selling the turf
Turf Envy is just a supply house.
supplies? Okay, I was just
Yep.
curious. You did, or so earlier you mentioned as far as challenges is the staffing. Is it, um, how are you handling it now? Is it, I mean, obviously it's still difficult. Do these people come, do you have to train them? Do they, is it just staffing for different positions, whether it's sales, or are they involved in the, obviously distribution? Is it really that kind of the warehousing? Do you warehouse this turf as well?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. So,
Correct.
and where you
We have
find, everybody wants to know where to find these, where to find staff, right? And we're all on Indeed, and we got ads on, Craigslist. I'm curious, have you been successful in any area of hiring as far as finding the staff? Yeah.
not one method has really worked, honestly.
Yeah.
I've had my fair share of no call, no shows, uh, people that are not qualified, wanting high end money
Mm-hmm.
for a basic entry level position. So it's just, I've been lucky with a couple of referrals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my sales team, though, I did find through Indeed, and I was very fortunate to get two of them that wanted to come work for me. And
Right.
they've been just stellar, really, really great guys.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I've noticed even just in my own business and other people I've talked to that technology, they almost supplement people with technology when it's short staffed. They look to other ways to be efficient in lieu of having people there. I mean, what do you guys do for technology as far as your business, running your business?
We utilize as much technology as makes sense. I like to work smarter, not harder. And there's a lot of applications out there that can help us do that, record data and keep track of inventory. On the flip side of that, there's really nothing better than a good old fashioned face to face. Let's have a relationship because our buyers are repeat buyers. So they come back month after month. So having those relationships built, I feel is, very important to the success of Turf Envy.
Yeah. So, all right. So company's growing fast. It's got nice top line revenue. You've got up to 2 locations now. So let's talk about your kind of management. So do you have what's your team look like? And I'm sure with 8 people, it's not really a big team. So first I'm curious who you have on the team, because you're a co-founder. So there must be another co-founder. And then how do you strategize? Do you meet weekly? Do you operate under kind of an operating system of some way? Like we use EOS, but there are many different ones out there. So I'm just curious how you're going about as you're growing, what your team looks like.
Yeah. So my co-founder actually runs the landscape company. So he doesn't participate in the day-to-day operations. So I'm solely responsible for the growth and the numbers, so to speak, of Turf Envy. I have a great admin who is my right hand, has a lot of experience in accounting and administrative tasks and skills.
Nice.
So I rely on her a lot. And then in California, I'm just kind of getting that going. We've been doing some sales out of there, getting close to 6 figures. But I'm back and forth. Actually, I leave tonight and I'll be back tomorrow night. So I spend 1.5 to 2 days a week flying into California and working out there with growing that location.
Do you have a lot of competition in this market? Turf's been around a long time, and so I'm just curious, what's that industry look like? Is it very there are a lot of business doing what you're doing, or is it just people are just kind of doing it not as a full business?
In Las Vegas, we have 11 or 12 turf suppliers, including the Star Nurseries and the Home Depots and that kind of entity. I believe that there's 6 or 7 that are directly at our level or more successful that we directly compete with. In California, there's a lot more, I believe.
How did so someone who's expanding, because that's what you're doing, how did you basically open up the California branch? So you're in Vegas, you're the co-founders at Landscaper as well, I'm sure, in Vegas too.
Correct.
So how did you say, look, I'm going to open up a branch in or a location in California? What's for somebody who's nervous about leaving their local area, what's that look like to you? How did that happen for you?
We had a large landscape company that we were servicing in California and realized that we needed a location there. Once we got the location, they went elsewhere with their supply. So now here we have this California location. But we also looked at it strategically, following kind of the drought pattern. So we have a drought issue out here.
Yeah.
And we're in Riverside, California. And so that typically is a hotter, more arid, dry part of California. It's not coastal where it's, lush and a little bit more moisture out there. Knowing that where we needed to strategize our location, we picked that area because of the hyper growth out there, plus the little bit more of a inland desert type environment. And it hasn't proven to be a bad decision. So we're starting to see the growth and the traction in that area. But that's why we chose that region of California.
Yeah. is that location, is it like a showroom and small warehouse? Like, what does that look like from a location point of view?
Yeah, so we're an industrial complex. We've got
Okay,
about 14,000 square feet,
it's a good
a
size.
600 square foot office showroom that we're
Hmm.
building out. And we've, got turf. Use it
Yeah.
as a
Mm,
distribution hub right now.
we've got turf. Okay, it
We
should
got
be like
turf.
a logo. We've got turf.
Right.
Yeah. Is it tough getting the word? Like I assume you have a salesperson down there. So is it, they just kind of hit all the landscapers more or less, let them know that you're there and you've got turf. Yeah.
Yes,
So.
that and it's starting to grow, and landscapers know other landscapers. And so the beauty in that is if you find somebody that's got the big talking, hey, go here, hey, go here, this is where I get
Mhm.
my stuff. We're starting to have more and more, probably picking up 1 to 2 new landscapers a week out there.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then also looking for who could resell our product. So, how do we get it into a distributor out there to sell into their clients?
Hmm. And so another question for you as kind of sounds like the primary operator of the business, since the other co-founder has a landscape company. Are you how where do you spend most of your time? Do you spend much in working in the business? Or like, are you like, looking at the manufacturing process, figuring out, like more the, who are we going to sell to, like more more like working in the business versus on the business where, hey, we want to hit these numbers next year, or we want to go into this location. Like, where do you spend most of your time? Or is it difficult to kind of do both of those things?
I probably am 50-50. I'm still
Okay.
very involved in the operations. If there's, when we were down a warehouse person and a customer came in, I'm in the warehouse cutting turf, loading the truck,
Hmm.
unloading a truck if there is material being brought in. If my admin's off, I work the front desk and interact with customers. But then I also definitely strategize and plan out, our quarters and what we're going to be, working towards in order to continue to expand.
Okay. No, that's good. Yeah, and I suppose as you expand even more, you'll probably be working more on it than, like you said, going down there and cutting turf. So, yeah.
Right.
And, and you mentioned, we talked earlier, but you said it's a family business, and you value people and culture. So talk about that. I mean, it sounds like you said you had a couple of your boys working on the business, and yeah, I'm curious how that's all working out. It has worked out for you.
It worked out really well. My youngest son is in college for software engineering. So he set up all of our applications and our workflows and our processes, sets up our phones and our computers. And so he takes care of all of the IT,
Hmm.
which is really nice and saves us some money. Um, my oldest is more of a hands-on. He knows electrical. He's done, construction. And so he came in and helped us run some electrical lines that we needed to kind of fortify our demise walls so we didn't put holes through it with the turf. Um, Deliveries and different things like that. So in the beginning, it was just trying to move turf and set up the company at the same time. It was a little
Hmm.
chaotic, actually.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I have a belief that I really follow Marcus Lemonis and his philosophy in companies where it's people, processes, and profits.
Hmm.
And so I really put my staff and my team first
Yeah.
and go to bat for them. The customer's not always right. And any mistakes we can fix on the back end. So there's a level of accountability, but then there's also a level of grace.
Mm, yeah.
And they feel important. And so we have a very good culture here. Um, you come in and it's fun. Everybody shows up every day. So I figure that
And probably low turnover, hopefully. It sounds like everyone.
my
Yeah.
core group, low turnover.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's good. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's hard to you can't just force culture, right? So and it does start from the top. So it's nice to hear that that's how you promote it. Everyone likes it. Um, yeah, that's good. So as far as you mentioned, even cash flow is one of your challenges. How far out do you have to like? There's a couple of questions here. So you have to manage how much inventory you have in stock. So I'm not sure what that turnover looks like. So how do you? I'm not sure the lead time is, first of all. So how do you estimate what you need to have, like as a business owner for inventory? Because you're all laying it out, that cash out, very much in advance of when you're selling that product.
Absolutely.
And that process can be
Um,
tough.
yeah. So when I order over in Asia, the lead time is production is 20 to 30 days.
Okay,
Um,
production.
and it doesn't necessarily mean that when I send them, my deposit, that they then start on it that day. It's got to fit in the cycle, and they have to pull all of the materials and put my materials on. So
Hmm.
it's a week to 2 weeks delay before production starts, and then it's 20 to 30 days into production. And then they have to schedule the shipping space on the ship, and the container has to be ordered, and it has to be at the port 3 days before the ship leaves. That's a requirement. So it's got to sit there for 3 days. Then it gets loaded on the ship, and then it comes over. And the shortest time that it could take is 14 days to get here. The longest time could be 21, depending on the route that the
Okay.
ship takes. The ship also can change their route mid course depending on if the port is backed up or not. So last year, that was a huge problem because what would take, about 18 days to get here was taking 25 to 30 days as they were rerouting themselves to go up to Northern California and then come down to LA or Long Beach just because it
Wow.
was so backed up.
So it sounds like it could be 60 to 90 days before you get the product, right? From the date you order it, a good
Yes.
couple of months, or it could be even more than that. Production. And so how do you, so it must have been tough even initially, and I'm not sure how tough it is now to schedule, because you have 11 plus different types of turf too, right? So have you ever gotten to a situation where you may have ordered too much of one style and it just hasn't sold yet? Or, you know, are you trying to order based on some kind of your own orders from your own landscapers? Because they can't wait that long typically, right? I mean, they need to have it in
Right.
stock. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, so an example is 2 weeks ago on a Friday, I got 16,000 square feet of our highest premium turf in, and I sold out in 72 hours.
Oh
I did
gosh.
not expect that to happen.
Yeah.
So even when you plan based on your run rates and your consumption rates and your sales rates, and you look at all these figures, it's really about paying attention to what's going on in your community. Out here, the HOAs and a lot of the parks and place, they're replacing their turf because they have to. And so even my competitors are having challenges keeping turf in stock. And there's certain turf types that seem to go faster than others because they're unique. And
Mm-hmm.
we all have a unique turf style. And so as much as you try to plan, I
Yeah.
don't keep enough turf in stock for it to sit here. I have a lot of it sold before it even gets to my
Even
warehouse.
wow. So you're basically constrained by your supply, sounds like, right?
Yes.
Probably double your business if you had the stock and, yeah.
Yep.
Now that's a good
Yep.
problem. Well, good problem to have. It's a different type of a problem, but yeah, no, that's great. Is there any specific challenges you have besides the overall, obviously, cash flow, which obviously you have to have some kind of maybe a line in place or, enough cash reserve built up to pay for this stuff. Obviously, staffing is tough. Is there any like current, like, hey, today, this is the big challenge we're having, whether it's technology, whether it's customers, whether it's anything? Is there anything more specific or current day challenges?
For me, I think that the biggest challenge right now is education on turf.
Okay.
I see a lot of people not really understanding how turf works, and how it performs. And it's just an education. And so we're working on a marketing strategy, with blogs and social media posts to really start educating people on what to expect when they have turf installed. Because a lot of them don't realize it gets hot. You can't play on it in the summer. You'll burn your feet. That it doesn't. It does require maintenance. Not a whole lot,
Yeah.
but you might need to do some things to it. If you have pets and they potty on it, yes, it's gonna have an odor, but there are things that people can do. And so I get a lot of these calls and emails about these questions. And so we've just created a series of how to educate consumers out there on turf.
Yeah, because it seems like most of your customers are landscapers, but the consumer is really the beneficiary of the turf. So it sounds like there could be an opportunity like you're doing now with the education, but maybe even like I'm not sure whether there's accessories like cleaning supplies and things that you can actually sell direct to consumers. I mean, I have no idea because I don't have turf, but I mean, that sounds like it could be another just little offshoot, you know, to people who have turf. Because do they ever have to replace a piece of it, or can they? Let's say something gets ruined for whatever reason. Could they actually, it's like a rug cut out, like like these, now they sell the rugs in squares for commercial buildings. You pull up the square and put a new one down. I mean, I'm probably, showing my ignorance when it comes to turf, but I'm curious as a consumer, if I was a consumer, is there a place I should be buying or watching to do, to keep it maintained or fixed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. We carry specific products to an infill called T-Cool that cools the turf. So we're the distributor here in Nevada. We also carry OxyTurf, which is an EPA registered cleaning product.
Okay.
Definitely what we recommend. It's written into our warranty as the cleaning product of choice. Those items we do sell directly to homeowners, so they'll come in looking for different solutions. We sell a lot to landscapers. Again, it's just an education piece. Yes, if turf is like a dog digs it up or a piece burns, you can get it replaced. Think of turf, though, like carpet, is that if you buy carpet last year and you go to try to buy a replacement piece to fix this year, the color might not match. Yeah. Same thing with dye lots and turf. They come in certain runs of colors, and so they could be off just a little bit. Most of the turf that we manufacture out here has a UV protectant, so you're not going to get much fading if you get a good quality turf. But where the difference is going to be is in that color run, in the dye of the yarn.
Yeah. Have you sold much turf? Well, I'm on the East Coast. Have you sold much over here? Like, or is most of the styles really geared towards like the West Coast or Vegas or that area? Just
in the research that I've done, like Georgia is starting to become popular with in the Atlanta market. With turf. Florida is really kind of a hot spot for turf, believe it or not. The drainage isn't really a consideration in kind of those wetter areas. Like even Seattle and Oregon have a pretty good turf business up there. Where we're focused on is we currently sell products into Utah, Arizona, Nevada, and California. So we're looking to kind of stay in this west of Texas. So Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and up into Colorado is probably where we're going to have locations.
Yeah.
That's our 5-year plan.
Okay. No, that sounds good. Yeah, you could take over that whole west coast or western part of the country. Yeah. Have you ever thought of doing franchisees, like setting up other people, and you be the supplier and setting them up? I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah. That
Yep.
sounds like,
I've got interest in one actually in Florida. So
wow.
we're talking to a gentleman out there who likes our products and our company and is looking to set up out there.
Yeah. No, that sounds great. It's a great story, especially where, and I keep going back to the fact that you started what, less than 2 years ago, 20, and you've grown the two locations, which sound like, revenue's increasing. And so it's just wonderful with 8 people right now, which doesn't even seem like a lot for what you're doing. It almost seems like you need more. I'm not, just
I
for the
do.
revenue growth. Like we said earlier, challenges, right? Staffing.
Right.
So, but the education market sounds great too, because not they actually need to do it because you keep growing, but educating the consumer as well as the landscaper. Do you ever get involved in like helping like a design build where they come to you and say, hey, we're trying to design this, landscaping for someone, and we want to put turf over here, and what do you suggest? And that's that type of thing. Do you get involved in that? Yeah.
We're definitely involved in that. And that's the part of this whole process that I love. I come from construction. My dad was a developer. And so being out on the job site is a lot of fun, actually. And so our sales team, including myself, we will go out into a job site and help you measure and design and lay out and figure out the best way to put the turf in. My whole position with turf is it's a conservation effort. So we help save water. And so the last thing I want to do is have a lot of this plastic sitting in a landfill somewhere. So if I could be a help to figure out the best way to lay it with the least amount of waste, that's better for our environment as well, because plastic doesn't biodegrade. It just sits there. So we try to recycle, we try to send it back. There are other countries that this stuff is exported to and reused. So we try to look at it from that conservation environmental aspect as well. So participation in those design builds is absolutely fun and important.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it would be.
Yeah.
So I'm a consumer, let's say, and actually in reality I could be. I have a small house on a lake with kind of like the sand and a little fire pit. And I got weeds growing up through the sand, and everyone keeps saying you should put down artificial grass. Would I be a good candidate for one of your turf products? Just in general. I mean, there's sun, and then mostly sun. So yeah, I'm just curious. But on sand, so I assume these landscapers have to lay a base and do a lot of work. Is that pretty much what would happen?
Yep. Yeah. There's this a process that's step by step. And so you have to prepare the area. So if you have a lot of sand, you'd have to figure out how to create a sub base so that the sand doesn't settle, and you use a white chat, which once it's kind of hardened and compacted, it's almost like a concrete, so you can walk on it and it's not gonna
like a stone dust almost.
Almost like that. Yep. And it gives a very firm surface for the turf to lay on. And then you put the turf on, and then you nail the turf into the chat, and the nails rust pretty quickly, and it creates a bond. And that helps hold the turf down, so you can run on it and it's not going to slide like, your hallway carpet on wood floor. You're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So it really depends on, what the underlying material is. Yep.
And do you ever have to, you mentioned earlier, some of these places are replacing turf. Like does it have a life to it somehow, or I'm just curious.
With regular use and regular care and maintenance, you could get 18 to 20 years out of your turf.
Oh, okay.
If you buy a good quality turf. Turf Envy's warranty is 15-year limited. So you get 8 years manufacturer warranty, and then we add an additional 7 years to that, kind of at a prorated warranty.
Yeah, and that must be tough to, you must have to track all that with like in your accounting system. And so you said you used QuickBooks, I think earlier before this call or this podcast, which I'm a big advocate. So it's what we work on. And I think you actually said you use Smart Sheets for like project planning and things like that. It's a
Yes.
pretty powerful program. Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Smart Sheets holds all of our data as far as the cuts, the customer, the roll numbers. So it has the die lot
Mm-hmm.
attached to it. So if there's a warranty claim, when we do deliveries, we take photographs of our deliveries. So we have all of that data to help us as a company, because there are people that will come back and say, you cut it wrong, you didn't deliver this. And so then we have the verification to show that it was. Unfortunately, I've had some thefts of property right after we've delivered. So it's
Right.
it's crazy.
It happens everywhere. You hear about like these contractors will like put in new appliances and they'll come back the next day and they've all been stolen, as and depending on the area they've been in. So yeah, I can imagine you dropping off a load of turf and it, walking away at some point for some
Yep.
customers. So cool. But so getting back real quick before I switch over to you, because of the management team is smaller, right? Because you only have 8 and it's you and your co-founder. Do you get together, or is it mostly you that kind of plans the strategy? I mean, do you have like, whether it's like monthly meetings or quarterly or even, weekly, where you kind of sit down and go over more like strategy as you're growing? Like, what are the big to-dos that we have to do as a company? Do we want to open up a new location over here? Do we need to hire another salesperson or a biz dev person? Or is that mostly you, or is there a process that you go through for that?
Yeah, no, we're in direct communication every week. And so for landscaping right now, it's the busy season. So we don't plan a lot of one-on-one, but when it's slower, we meet weekly and have lunch and kind of go over some of the bigger decisions that we need to make as far as partnerships go. But when it comes to the day-to-day, who to hire, who to fire, the sales, what kind of turf to order, all of that is what I take care of.
What you do. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Did you have a good, what I call a processor, which is the person who dots the I's, cross it kind of comes in behind you, make sure everything's kind of like documented and there's the contracts, or it's not all in your head. Like, is there a person in your firm like that? Or right now, is it mostly you doing all that?
It's mostly me, but I believe in having written policies and procedures, and then SOPs on how to do things. So we've developed, if I'm not here and there's Debbie, my admin, has a question, she can go to the SOP and take care of the task because it's all written down there for her.
Did you develop those yourself? Did you set all those? Oh, that's awesome. And what I'm just curious, what kind of tool do you have, like in a Word document, Excel sheet? Is that what you kind of use? Okay.
A Word document.
Okay. Yeah, there's so much technology out there that every time I turn around, there's SOP technology now.
I know.
Yeah.
Where was that a year and a half ago?
There's like Process Street, and they're all over the place. So I was curious what you use, but I'm sure as you grow, you may end up using some of that other technology to automate things. Everything now is about automation. So, so enough about company. Let's just, really quickly chat about you. Like, I'm just curious, your background, how you get, we briefly talked about how you got involved, but just, take us back to, where'd you go to school? Did you grow up in Nevada, or, let us know where you came from. Yeah.
Born and raised in Orange County, California.
Okay.
Graduated Orange High, got married right out of high school. Went to college, University of Minnesota Crookston, got a degree in physical therapy, eventually moved to Texas and started practicing.
Wow.
And practiced physical therapy until 2012. Lived in Seattle for a few years. Started my
kind of bounced around a little bit.
In physical therapy, you tend to get recruited as I was a rehabilitation director. So I was managing rehab units. And so you work for a large company and you grow. I'm a builder. I like to grow things. And So you start growing programs and revenue. They say, hey, we need you over here. So then they'll move you over here to manage this and grow this. Mm-hmm. And, it just started getting very corporatized. Healthcare is very corporate and profit driven right now, not patient. Patient driven.
It's funny. My girlfriend's in medical. She runs a lab in a hospital, and she said same thing. It's all about profits, and if we can cure some patients along the way, that's great.
Yep.
That's her, and that's not her. That's her opinion of what's happening, not that way she feels personally. But yeah. So you did that dissuade you? Like you wanted to get out of the field, essentially?
Yeah. The 2012, I decided to launch my entrepreneurial journey. My dad was a developer, so I grew up watching my dad be a successful entrepreneur.
Awesome.
And in 2018, my sister bought a condo out here in Vegas. And so early that year through the summer, I would come out here with her, and we were renovating that condo. So we were always out here buying stuff and, Red Rock and all the great restaurants off the strip. And I just really Lake Mead, and I fell in love with Las Vegas and the Valley.
Oh.
So 2018, next month is actually 4 years. I made the move and came out here and decided in 2019, I just wanted to get a job, because being in a new city and an entrepreneur is really a challenge.
Yeah, you don't know the people. It's just you're starting from zero. Especially as an entrepreneur, the connections. There is no connections, right? So,
right. Yeah. I knew nobody except my sister. That was it. Nobody. So I had this opportunity for sales, and I took it. And it was working with landscapers, and I'd go out on the job site. So I felt very comfortable, and I loved it. I love serving people. And that's really what our business does, is we serve people. And
awesome.
That's
and the
how
rest
the story
is history.
goes.
Yeah. So from physical therapy to turf. So
turf.
And from California to Minnesota to Texas, Seattle, and Vegas, right? I think that's the route you just mentioned.
Yeah.
We all end up where we're supposed to be, right? I mean, that's what they say. So, yeah. Well, and where can people find you? I mean, I found you on LinkedIn under Celeste Interrante, right?
Right.
You have a website? So,
it's turfenvyusa.com.
And it's NV, the letter N, the letter V, right? Or not? How does it? What's the website?
It's either. So turfenvy.com or turfenvyusa.com.
Okay.
We kind of rebranded. So we started as Turf NV, with Turf Envy being the play on the words and the.
Sure.
But then we kind of rebranded as we started with a marketing company to Turf Envy, ENVY. And then all of our social media is Turf Envy USA, because we're going to be across the country.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, any of our social media, it's Turf Envy USA.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this was great. I learned a lot. I would love to, even like in a year, reach out again and say, all right, how many locations are you at? What's your, employee count? Just love to hear more about your journey, because we're under 2 years. So at 3 or 4, it'd be just wonderful to see where you're at. Because it sounds like you said, you're a builder. So this is going to keep going. It's going to keep growing, which is ironic because turf doesn't grow, but
right.
Play on words, right? Yeah, this is great. So Celeste, I appreciate your time. I know it's early in where you are from where I am. I want to thank the people who are listening and watching, and hopefully you learned something, and please like it and share it with others. We try to bring on great leaders like Celeste, and again, I encourage everyone to share, and I want to thank Celeste again. This is awesome. I learn something every time I talk to new leaders.
Had a good time.
Yeah, thank you, and hopefully we'll reach out in a year. So this has been another episode of Leaders Who Scale. And that wraps up another episode. Thank you for joining. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at leaderswhoscale.com. Leaders Who Scale is sponsored by Siegel Solutions, providing world-class services and cutting-edge tools that help businesses grow and succeed.